Go.
Right. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Great. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm over here on the East Coast in Newcastle, so it's just gone 10 o'clock over here. I'm going to talk to you about the amazing event that we went to in July on the Gold Coast called GoPro. So when Tamara sort of talked about getting to events, this was a really, really huge occasion for me. And I've had many years of working in events and going to many events. And I've honestly got to say that this is one of the best events I've actually ever been to in my entire life for a number of reasons. But anyway, look, my job tonight is to share a little bit about what I learned at GoPro. And I'm going straight to the skill number 2, which is on page 39. It's chapter 5 of GoPro. So if you haven't read it, please do yourselves a favor and go and read it or read it again. I'm doing skill number 2. It's all about inviting your prospects to understand your product or your opportunity. And there are 8 steps to a professional invitation, but I'm only going to talk about steps from steps 3 to step 7, where they actually cover the types of questions that we need to ask. So the whole idea of network marketing is not to pitch. Okay, so, and I guess that was one of the biggest learning curves when I started. We're not selling, but we're inviting. And the focus and the big thing that I learned from Eric Worre about attending GoPro was this is all about education and it's all about understanding. And I mean, Tamara hit the nail on the head earlier tonight when she said, who do we not know that doesn't need more fruits and veggies? I mean, it's pretty simple. But our job is to educate and understand. And from that, the biggest thing and the biggest gift that we can give ourselves is we need to listen to understand, because we're learning too. So, okay, so tonight I want to talk about what does that really mean? And what that really means is to ask great questions. That's what that actually means. So the first step is step 3, making the invitation. And that could look like, if you're going to do the direct approach, and it takes you through step by step in chapter 5 from page 39. I've typed all my notes out tonight, so I'm happy to email these to Tamara and she can put them in Hunters and Gatherers. So please don't feel like you have to just start madly rushing and writing down some questions, because at the end it will probably all make sense. So step 3 is make the invitation. The direct approach to someone in your warm market could be something like, when you told me you didn't like your job, or it could be something like, when you told me you needed more money, or when you told me you wanted to find a new house. So you're sort of opening up that question. And you can say to them, were you being serious or were you just mucking around? You know, and most people will say that they're actually being serious. So I think that's the, you know, a more direct approach to somebody that you know well. You could also say, are you still looking for that job? Are you still looking to make these changes in your life? Are you looking to do this? So, you know, it's just, you could even start by saying, you know, let me ask you a question just off the record. Are you still looking at wanting to earn an extra $500 or $1,000 a month? And if you could, would you be interested in you know, something that I know about? So that's the first part. Examples for your cold market prospects, so people that you don't know as well. Something could be like, have you ever thought about diversifying your income? Or it could be something like, do you keep your career options open? Or do you plan on doing what you're doing now for the rest of your career? So it's basically just starting a conversation. But my tip for the night is make sure you're listening for the response. Make sure you're having a conversation with this person and that you're not just rattling off a series of questions, and that you're really making a connection with this person and building a relationship. The next example is a more indirect approach. So the one I just gave you was direct. This is more indirect. And this is once again to your warm market, people who you know. I've just started a new business and I need some practice. And this was me when I started. It was like, can I just practice on you? Or I found a business I'm really excited about. Would you have a look at it for me? So it's just starting that conversation. and then, you know, thinking about how you could actually do that. That would be my advice there. The other thing would be the super indirect approach to your warm market prospects is this business I'm clearly, the business I'm in clearly isn't for you, but I wanted to ask, do you know of anyone who's ambitious, or do you know of anyone who's money motivated, or would be excited about the idea of adding more cash flow to their lives? So it could be something like that, that you're asking a question, you're sort of leading into it, you want it to be them, but it could also be other people that they know. Another question could be something like, who do you know that might be looking for a strong business that they could run from their home, working part-time hours, you know, 15-minute blocks of time, half-hour blocks? You know, do you know anyone? And that way, that's another conversation starter. So that was step 3. Step 4, this is the secret weapon. This is my favorite part. And this is only something that I learned very recently from conference, and once again from going to GoPro. And this is the secret weapon question. And it starts with, if I, would you? So that leads you into, if I sent you a link to a video, would you watch it? Or if I invited you to a webinar or a Zoom call, would you attend? Or if I invited you to a special invitation only event, would you attend? So it's really, that one's really, really powerful. And lots of us, I'm sure, have had practice at that one. And firstly, it's reciprocated. You're saying that you'll do something if they do something for you. And second, it puts you in place of the power, and you've actually got control of the conversation. So it's a really great one. And thirdly, it actually implies that you have something of value to offer them. So I find that question really magical, and it's really quite, as I said, quite powerful. So instead of saying, I really, really, really want you to try my product, or I really, really want you to attend an event, you're sounding like you're a desperate distributor. And I guess all we can do, and the worst thing that can happen is they say no, and you say thank you, and you keep moving on, and you keep moving on. And that's the way, you know, we can continue a conversation with lots of different people, and you can have all these conversations going at once. So if they say no, thank them and move on. 5% of your prospects will actually say what they say they're going to do. But to get closer to 80%, we need to use the following questions that I'm about to run through now to get you closer. So step 5 is confirmation number 1, and it's get a time commitment. So you've asked if would you go to the next step? So you could ask something like, when do you think you could watch the video link? When do you think you could listen to something? Or when do you think you could read? Or when do you think you could have a look at? So you're just asking really gently and getting an indication from them when they think they could get something, when they think they could do something. And see, that's another powerful approach as well. So just ask the question, and then wait for them to respond. And it makes them think about their schedule, it makes them think about their time commitments, and it makes it more real for them. Now, I don't know about you, but if I say I'm going to do something for someone, 99.9% of the time, I will actually do it. So if I say I'm going to do something, I'm more committed to it. So that's what that step actually gets them closer to. Step 6, and remember there's only 7 steps, so we're almost there. Confirmation number 2 is get a time commitment from them. So if I called you on Wednesday morning, do you think you will have watched the video link that I sent you? So the key to this step, this isn't an appointment you've set. It's an appointment that they've set, right? And that's where they will give you more commitment. And then we go to step 7, which is confirmation number 3. And that's where you might schedule the next call. So it might be a bit more of a conversation here. It could be is it time to have a 3-way? Is it time to have a bit more of a conversation? Is it time to get their number? And see where they're coming from. And exactly, always listening to what they're responding to, and then continue that conversation. Ask them what they liked best about whether they attended an event, whether they watched a link, and that sort of thing. So there are some tips on, and other conversation starters are, what would you expect if this opportunity was for you, or if you did, how much per month would it be worth your time? If you're going to put some time into it, how much time would you spend? So there's lots of different ways we can go about it, and you can use a lot of hypotheticals there as well. And that's also really quite handy. How many hours per week could you allow to build? How many months would that take you? All those sorts of things. If I could show you, another great question that I love is, if I could show you, would you be willing to take the next step with me? And, just letting them know that you're going to be there with them, to a point to show them. So they've said yes to you 4 times. So the whole invitation only took a few minutes. So your whole goal is your whole goal of education and understanding has gone from that 5% right through to 80% now, because they've experienced those 4 steps. Now, remember that in recruiting, there are no good or bad experiences. And this was great value to me. And I think I was a bit timid and a bit frightened to ask questions. And this has given me greater confidence to keep going and ask more questions, because we are learning too. And that's okay. But the more we practice this skill and the more we develop our skills, the more confidence we get. And what I learned was, it was okay to get that no. It's okay to get that no, thank you. It's okay to get that, thanks for making contact with me, but, I'm not interested in looking at something like that. So it's like, that's fine. Okay, let's move on. But at the same time, you're still building relationships with these people, and you never know, because they might know someone who knows someone. Now, I just want to move to Simon Chan for a minute, because we had the opportunity to go to Simon Chan straight after conference. And he was another great example and another great leader in the industry for me. And he was always of the mindset, ask people, don't tell people. People don't want to join needy people trying to sell them something. So he has a series of questions, and I'll just give you a couple of examples of some of the types of questions and scripts that he might use. And as I said, don't try and take them all down, because I can send them through to tomorrow and you can have a look at them and jot them down anytime you like, and start to formulate your own questions that you can sort of file and put in your notes and have pre-prepared for different conversations, so that you're ready to go. So another one would be, this may or may not be for you. Would you be interested in taking a look? And that's something that I have found really, really beneficial. Do you know anyone who would be interested? I've just come back from an amazing conference or an event or whatever you've actually been to, and I thought of you. So that's always a nice one. What made you interested in my business? So if people are actually following you and they're looking at you, you can always go in and say, well, what interested you about that post that you made a comment on, or what interested you about that photo, or, all those different modes of communication that we're using. And once again, when you're asking questions, this is not about you needing them. This is about them needing you. This is about them wanting the change in their life for whatever reasons, because we're all going through it as well. So we're all wanting the changes. They're wanting their own changes. So remember, you don't need them. They need you. So it's really interesting to, when you are looking at someone and when you are, wanting to help someone, it's like, what qualities could they bring to your team? So, and I guess that's the question that you could actually say to them. What qualities could you bring to our team? And, you know, what do you find helpful or interesting? How would you give this more time? So that's getting them to think about their time, thinking about their schedule, so that you're not saying you have to do this, you have to do that. What you're actually saying is, how could you do this? How could you find the time? What is there anything, you know, that you could fit into your life? So you're giving them the ideas and giving them the ownership and giving them the empowerment. I'm not good at sales. I sort of, you know, every now and then you'll get the negative comments and it's like, well, did I try and sell you anything? No, we're just having conversations. We're not selling, we're sharing, we're educating and we're understanding. All I did was ask you to look at something. So if someone, you know, isn't interested, that's okay, but all you're doing is asking them to look at something. And one other great quality question that that has just been magical is the phrase, what if? You know, what if? You know, if it's not this, what could it be? And I'll elaborate that on a little bit more just in a minute. Sometimes we get those negative questions too, you know, about MLM generally. And just out of curiosity, you know how someone will say to you, well, what they might have had a negative experience with a, you know, pyramid scheme or multi-level marketing or something like that. And look, I know that I was I was a skeptic when I first started as well, and it was like, oh, you know, what are you talking about? So when you do, or when that negative response comes your way, a great way to sort of combat that is, well, just out of curiosity, what do you mean by a pyramid scheme? And then you can sort of, you know, say, well, I wouldn't sell, you know, I wouldn't do anything illegal. I wouldn't want to go to jail. It seems like you've had an experience with that. You know, tell me what happened, so that you're putting it back to them to share with you, you know, what happened. I had someone say to me the other day, I don't want to sell my friends anything. I don't want to lose any friends or anything like that. And I said to her straight up, I said, oh, tell me about your experience. That sounds really interesting. And then she launched into her story about what had happened to her. And I said, oh, that's really interesting. You know, that hasn't happened to me, and this is what we're all about, and this is what we do. Or someone, you know, when they do have a story, simply say, what happened? You got a story? Tell me about it. And then they can launch into, you know, their story, and then it helps them get clarity too for themselves and go, well, hang on a minute, that really wasn't a big deal, or it wasn't that serious. So what we need to become, I guess, and this was a really, you know, one of those light bulb moments for me, was that we need to master the art of asking questions. That's really what this is all about. And then listening to the responses to understand what that person needs. And you're going to know whether they're going to keep going with the conversation, or you're actually going to, you know if they want to keep going and it's working out for them. So we have to become the master question asker. And, you know, if I could show you a way to help you reduce coughs and colds, if I could show you a way to earn an income around the kids and working from home, if I could show you a way to, you know, reduce whatever it is that these beautiful products do for us every day. What you're doing is you are sharing something that's adding value to them. And once we all realise that, and once we realise that that's what we're doing, we're not selling. We're just building relationships, and we're caring about people, and that's the ultimate goal. So after all of that, we need to zip it and then share all those links, those beautiful products and links and things that have been prepared for us by our sponsors and our mentors. And that's where we go to the three-way call. So that's where we go to the three-way calls. And then, of course, we've all been educated and we all understand that the fortune is in the follow-up. And remember that they need you you don't need them. So just very quickly, I just want to finish up with some lovely notes that I took about one of Linda Evanden's presentations. She was actually presenting at GoPro, and I got quite a lot of value from her conversation because a lot of it was around asking questions. And her whole tip is asking quality questions. So it's about 80% mindset. And we all know that this is a business of personal development, and 20% mechanics. So how do I break the cycle? Well, you have to become the master asker. There's a better question. Ask better questions, get better questions. What if you could dream again? Who do I need to become to be successful in this business? Why can't I? Because if you can't, your focus is on me, or your focus is on you. So what's the truth? What is the truth? Don't complain about results you didn't get for the work you didn't do. So who do I need to become to go pro? So you can see here that these questions, we're actually all asking the same questions of ourselves. So whilst we're asking of the people that we want to bring onto our team, we're still asking the same questions of ourselves. So remember, the questions that you're asking others are the questions we need to be asking ourselves. And that's the pinnacle. That's the absolute pinnacle of this business. And the question that I ask myself every day is, who do I need to become? And what's my outcome? And I don't know, but you might remember just a moment ago when Val interviewed Elise, the first question that she asked Elise was, what's your outcome? Because, and that's the beautiful part. So I don't know about you, but every defining moment in my life, every time there's been a light bulb moment, someone has always asked me a question. And I want to share one of those questions with you. 3.5 years ago, I started in this business, this amazing business. And 3.5 years ago, I was asked the question, how do you want your life to look in the next 1 to 5 years? Now that changed my entire life as it is today. It hasn't all been a result of the Juice Plus business, but my husband's and my life has changed so much in 3.5 years. It's been absolutely, I mean, I won't go into the changes now because I know we're on a time limit. But that question was just such a defining moment in our lives. And all I kept thinking about was, I don't want my life to look like the last 5 years. I really want to see some major change. And that's exactly what's happened to us personally and professionally, independently of each other and together in our relationship. That was a defining question that someone asked me. It was actually someone in another multi-level marketing company. It wasn't the Juice Plus company. It was someone else in another company, and they asked me that question, and that question changed my life. So just think about the question that you could ask somebody tonight or tomorrow that could be their light bulb moment, and that you could change their lives forever. And isn't that the business we're in? Aren't we about helping people and changing people's lives? Well, it will all be down to the questions that you and I and all of us ask. So regardless of whether or not they become a franchisee, regardless of whether they start on the product, you've already helped them because you've already asked them a question and you've already changed their lives. And you've taken away their fear, and you haven't made it about you. You've honestly helped them. And isn't that, realistically, that's what we're all about, and that's why we're in this business. So it's my belief that this is where the joy is, in asking all these questions. When that person has that light bulb moment, that's when, you've asked them that question. You've asked them that divining, life changing in that moment, you know. And I love it when you're there and you're present with them. And if you are having having a coffee, or you are actually together, and it happened to me the other day, I was there for the light bulb for this person, and I shared it with them. And for me, that's the gift, and that's where all the magic happens in this business. So my challenge to you is, I'd like you to take on this challenge over the next, however, you can do it two ways. I'll give you two options. You can send out 100 messages in the next 72 hours, or you can do 3 asks per day for the next month, or you can send out 25 text messages and fill your calendar for the rest of the month. So you don't need to know everything. It's actually the practicing of the skill. So no one's perfect. I'm still learning. I'm still growing as a person. I'm still developing myself as an individual. So someone's just said, could I read it again? So you can send out, I haven't finished, but I'll just clarify. You can send out 100 messages in the next 72 hours, or you can ask 3 asks per day for the next month, which is the sort of similar thing. It's about, you know, 100, it'll all equate to 100. Or you can send out 25 text messages tomorrow or at the start of the month to fill your calendar. But every message that you send out has to be a question. So it all starts from asking a question. So you can ask to become a customer. You can ask someone to try a product. You can ask someone to have a coffee. You can invite someone to an event. So if not, why not you? And remember, it's about the education and the understanding, and it's about relationships. So that's my challenge to you for the next, you can either do it in 72 hours, or you can do it over a month, 3 asks a day for the next month, or you can start filling your calendar for the next, technically 30 days, and send out 25 to 30 text messages. But every message that you send out has to start with a question. And it could be just a contact, it could be a follow-up, it could be an invite. There are all these different ways that you can invite someone to look at the business. So here are just a couple of discovery and coaching questions to finish up with that I have found really, really helpful for me. What if you could? What if I could show you a way? What do you really want? And what will that give you? What do you think is preventing you? What are 1 to 2 things that you can do today to move you closer to your goal? And some other empowering questions are, what's my real outcome? What's the gift in this? Who do I need to become? What else could this mean? And would you follow you on social media? So that's it. That's all I've got for tonight. I hope I didn't go over time. Or
beautiful job. Great.
If you want to ask some questions, fire away.